with Prime Minister Netanyahu's commentary than I am with Congress taking actions that might undermine the talks before they're completed. And what I've said to members of Congress, both Democrats and Republicans, is there will be plenty of time for us to reapply sanctions, strengthen sanctions, to take a whole range of other measures if, in fact, we do not have a deal. But what we should not do is prejudge the deal and initiate sanctions that might allow Iran to walk away.
Netanyahu says he does not intend to disrespect President Obama, and while he adds his country's relationship with the U.S. should never be politicized, his speech about the dangers of compromise with Iran has further polarized an already divided American capital. We have Fox team coverage tonight. Ed Henry's at the White House with the politics of this trip, but we begin with Chief Washington correspondent James Rosen and Netanyahu's opening salvo earlier today. Good evening, James.
Brett, good evening. Prime Minister Netanyahu said that his address to the joint meeting of Congress, as yet undelivered, is already being misperceived, that his main objective is to use the voice he commands as the head of the Jewish state on behalf of a people whose voice throughout history has too often been silenced.
Greeted with a standing ovation by the American-Israeli Public Affairs Committee, or AIPAC, the powerful pro-Israel lobby group, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu depicted Iran sponsoring, training, and arming terrorists on 5 continents, and he sketched out obliquely how a nuclear-armed Iran would reshape the Middle East.
No one makes alliances with the weak. You seek out those who have strength, those who have resolve, those who have determination to fight for themselves.
Israel's dispute with the Obama administration over Iran, the Prime Minister likened to a family disagreement and said the alliance will weather it and grow stronger, even as Netanyahu explained, again obliquely, why he thinks President Obama misunderstands the Iranian threat.
America is the strongest power in the world. Israel is strong, but it's much more vulnerable. American leaders worry about the security of their country. Israeli leaders worry about the survival of their country.
Hours earlier in Europe, Secretary of State John Kerry met again with Iran's foreign minister as part of the multilateral P5+1 talks aimed at reining in Iran's nuclear program in exchange for sanctions relief. The Israelis fear the final accord will allow Tehran to keep its massive uranium enrichment apparatus and contain an expiration date of 10 to 15 years, after which Iran could conceivably proceed unimpeded to a nuclear weapons capability. With negotiators working to strike a deal by March 24, Kerry warned the Israelis, this time explicitly, not to try to torpedo the talks with unauthorized leaks.
We are concerned by reports that suggest selective details of the ongoing negotiations will be discussed publicly in the coming days. Now, I want to say clearly that doing so would make it more difficult to reach the goal that Israel and others say they share in order to get a good deal.
The AIPAC crowd also heard from the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, Samantha Power, who rebuked the Palestinians for unilateral moves at the UN and the Israelis for expanded settlement activity. Minutes later, Netanyahu vowed to keep Jerusalem as the eternal, undivided capital of the Jewish state. Brett.
Interesting tomorrow, James. Thank you. While the Obama administration boasts that U.S.-Israeli relations have never been stronger, the tension between the two leaders has been almost palpable. Chief White House correspondent Ed Henry has that part of the story tonight.
That bond is unbreakable.
President Obama and his top aides appear to be backpedaling a bit after initially attacking Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's visit.
I don't think it's permanently destructive. I think that it is a distraction from what should be our focus.
While top officials are still offering tough words for Netanyahu, they're trying to turn down the temperature.
The Prime Minister of Israel is welcome to speak in the United States. We are not, we don't want to see this turned into some great political football.
Except the president's national security advisor, Susan Rice, earlier appeared to be doing just that, slamming Speaker John Boehner's invitation to the Prime Minister.
On both sides, there has now been injected a degree of partisanship, which which is not only unfortunate, I think it's destructive of the fabric of the relationship.
Republican John McCain revealed today that unnamed leaders of Arab states have told him they'll start a nuclear arms race in the Mideast if the president is determined to sign a nuclear deal with Iran as a legacy item.
Every country in the region is going to go nuclear if we sign this deal that would apparently that he is desperate to get done.
With Iran?
With Iran. But listen, I have heard from Middle Eastern leaders direct that they will go nuclear.
McCain charged Rice and others reacted in hysterical fashion to Netanyahu's visit because they're concerned he'll pick apart vulnerabilities in the emerging deal with Iran. Today, the head of the UN's nuclear watchdog, known as the IAEA, said Iran is stonewalling on details about nuclear warhead research it conducted in the past.
The agency is not in a position to provide credible assurance about the absence of undeclared nuclear material and activities in Iran, and therefore to conclude that all nuclear material in Iran is in peaceful activities.
That appears to fly in the face of White House claims Iran has been cooperative.
The international community has verified that Iran has lived up to the commitments that they made in the context of the Joint Plan of Action.
Now, Ernest met the IAEA blessing Iran's compliance with one-track freezing nuclear activities, and officials here claim that's unrelated to Iran not cooperating on a second-track alleged explosives test. But the State Department has previously said all these questions have to be resolved, so the two tracks are essentially intertwined. Brett?
Ed Henry live on the North Lawn. Ed, thank you. Fox News.